on. What I could have done better is a lot of things. 100%.
Curves his punches where, you know, like the first few rounds, he throws very few punches.
He's just measuring. He's a computer, man.
Yep.
He's just getting the data on you, faking you, taking pictures of everything you're doing. Then
People will criticize you for going 6 rounds with Jake Paul. How do you feel about that?
I deserve it.
Why? Come on.
Because, like, we're elite fighters.
Joe Rogan was absolutely stunned. I mean, genuinely taken aback after Anthony Joshua allegedly pulled back the curtain on what really goes on behind the scenes of a Jake Paul fight contract. And let me tell you, what came out was wild. What many fans just casually assume is a straightforward, simple crossover boxing match, you know, influencer meets professional fighter, quickly turned into something far more calculated, controlled, and frankly kind of disturbing when you dig into the details. As Joshua reportedly laid out the clauses, the restrictions, and all the hidden leverage that's apparently baked into these deals, Rogan's reactions captured it all perfectly. You could see it in his face, the realization that this wasn't just about boxing skill or who's the better fighter in the ring. No, this was about business power, financial protection, and narrative control on a level most fans never even think about. And once you actually hear what Joshua revealed, once you understand the full scope of what these contracts apparently contain, it becomes crystal clear why so many real fighters, legitimate professionals with nothing to prove, have quietly walked away from a Jake Paul bout without even entertaining the idea. The question everyone's asking now is, would you sit on that stage and sign that deal? Yeah, think about what that really means.
And you hear him saying everything he says. Bearing in mind the journey you've been on, everything you've done, do you just think this guy's deluded?
Nah. Look, an amateur coming into the game with no experience, he's taking on some good names. They may be old, they may be from different combats in terms of MMA and so on, but he's got in the ring at a decent level, fought Tommy Fury and so on. So he believes in himself. I take it seriously, I respect it.
Yeah, but they're levels. Come on, AJ.
Yeah, there are, but it's all about on the night. The levels that I carried last year and the year before and the year after that will not win me this fight. What will win me this fight is performing on the night. And I have to respect my opponent. If I underestimate him, I give him a chance. And that's
all one needs is just a chance, right? That's what they say. That's the romantic notion of boxing that we all want to believe in. The bout, which was officially billed as Judgment Day with all the promotional hype you'd expect, was contested over a scheduled 8 3-minute rounds in the heavyweight division, following standard professional rules and regulations. Joshua entered as the clear, overwhelming favorite due to his elite experience at the highest levels of the sport and his significant size advantage, standing at an imposing 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighing in around a solid 240, which is a substantial difference when you're talking about heavyweight punching power. After several tentative early rounds where both fighters seemed to be feeling each other out, testing distance and timing, Joshua began to take control of the fight in a way that showed his championship experience. He started breaking Paul down systematically, knocking him down multiple times in the 5th round, just absolutely punishing him with combinations and power shots, before finishing the fight with a devastating 6th round knockout at exactly 1 minute and 31 seconds. He landed a crushing right hand, the kind of shot that separates professionals from amateurs, that sent Paul crashing to the canvas hard and forced the referee to immediately stop the bout for Paul's safety. It was the kind of ending that reminded everyone watching exactly what level Anthony Joshua operates at.
I'm heavyweight champ Anthony Joshua. Paul was sturdy for the first couple of rounds, but as the fight went on, the more experienced Joshua began to take control. After continuously connecting in the 5th round, it was only a matter of time before it was over. In the 6th, Joshua went on to knock out Paul with a big right hand. Joshua improved his career record to 29-4 now. Paul loses for the 2nd time in his career to go long.
Now let's talk numbers here, because context matters in boxing. Going into this fight, Jake Paul had built up a record that included 12 victories, which sounds impressive until you start looking at who those victories came against and under what circumstances. Paul's game plan for the match against Anthony Joshua was built entirely around movement, speed, and desperately trying to avoid Joshua's devastating power for as long as humanly possible. Paul openly stated before the fight, in interviews and press conferences, that his strategy was going to be all about using his agility and footwork, constantly circling around the ring, keeping his distance like his life depended on it, and making Joshua chase him around in hopes of frustrating the former heavyweight champion and somehow, some way, surviving all 8 rounds to hear the final bell. His team, including his coaches and training partners, and even Paul himself in his pre-fight interviews, said repeatedly that he wanted to avoid that one shot, that knockout punch that could end everything in a split second. He was banking on his cardio, which he'd been promoting heavily, and his angles, trying to use lateral movement to last the distance and claim some kind of moral victory. The idea was simple in concept, if not in execution: keep moving constantly, frustrate Joshua by making him miss, and make him work for every moment, rather than trying to engage head-on with a heavier, far more experienced, and much more powerful puncher. It was survival mode disguised as strategy, and everyone watching knew it.
In a second, and you saw the game plan from both guys from round 1. Jake was very mobile. I mean, he had the happy feet going. He was circling around the outside of the ring. He was not looking to engage in elongated combinations. He was not looking to stand in the center of the ring with AJ, and people are going to say Jake ran from AJ, and you're right. Because guess why? He absolutely had to. Again, we talked about this in the build-up to the fight. He had to be mobile. He had to be on his bike. So yes, you're justified in saying Jake ran from him because he had to. He had to. And anybody that convinced themselves that Jake was going to walk to the center of the ring, stand in the phone booth with AJ, and trade punches until someone laid flat, you were lying to yourself, or you convinced yourself of something you saw in the promo. This was always going to be the way the fight went. I wasn't surprised at all that this is the way that Jake started and pretty much fought the entire time. I was a bit surprised that AJ didn't assert himself earlier. Now, again, it is very hard to hurt someone that doesn't want to engage in a continuous fight. Round 1, very much a feeling out process for AJ. Didn't really look like he did much, but Jake didn't either. There was one right hand that AJ landed in the first round that shook Jake up. That's the danger that was coming for Jake the entirety of the fight. The second and third rounds were pretty much the same, a bit of a mixed bag in terms of Jake tried to get on his jab more. He did land some jabs that snapped the head back of AJ and landed some right hands, but this was all calculated risk for AJ as well, because he knew as long as he turned that faucet on and let the water run and let it fill up the sink and never turned the faucet off, that eventually he would drown Jake, right? So every round it was pressure, front foot, front foot, front foot, and AJ strategically breaking down Jake's gas tank. I will say I'm pretty let down by the fact that AJ didn't cut the ring. I was shocked that he didn't go to the body more. I was shocked that he didn't set up his punches more, didn't get his head off the center line more. It was not a great performance from AJ, but at the same time, AJ had just come off a loss. AJ had just come off surgery. I'm not making excuses, but it wasn't a great AJ performance.
Legendary ring announcer Michael Buffer, the voice of boxing for decades with his iconic "Let's Get Ready to Rumble" call, offered a really unique and somewhat surprising viewpoint on the influence of Jake and Logan Paul in modern boxing culture. He highlighted how the brothers, love them or hate them, have actually managed to bring fresh energy and attention to the sport, capturing the interest of younger audiences who might not have otherwise engaged with boxing at all. Think about it. Kids who've never watched a traditional boxing match are now tuning in because of these crossover events. Their undeniable talent for building engaging storylines, creating anticipation through social media and promotional stunts, and generating large-scale excitement and buzz has significantly expanded the sport's reach beyond its traditional fan base. Buffer acknowledged that while some critics, especially boxing purists and longtime fans, remain deeply skeptical about the legitimacy of crossover fights and whether they belong in the sport at all, the Paul brothers' impact on boxing's visibility and commercial success cannot be simply dismissed or ignored. By attracting new viewers who might eventually become real boxing fans and increasing mainstream media interest and coverage, they have opened doors for broader fan engagement and brought boxing back into popular culture conversations in ways the sport hasn't seen in years.
Are fantastic athletes. You know what Logan does with the WWE and what Jake does with boxing, knocks people out and everything. And they both have massive fan bases. And for me, it's great to see people get young people that follow them that didn't have they don't remember Ali or Joe Frazier or whatever. Right. It's not in their wheelhouse. So it's great to see them developing fight fans and a big fight atmosphere. So it's very exciting.
These two stood face to face, and the comment section on the internet was going crazy. They were like, call the ambulance now, basically. Like Anthony Joshua looks dangerous standing next to him.
Anthony Joshua is, at this time, and has been for years, the biggest puncher in boxing. He's a devastating puncher. So I got to give Jake a lot of credit for wanting to take this fight.
Yeah, it's not. A lot of people saying it's not smart. If he somehow was able to surprise the world, what does this do for him?
The word would be surprised if he shocked the world. But that's exactly why you got to give him credit. He wants to do it. He trains hard, he works hard, and he has a lot of faith in himself. So we'll see what happens.
Technically, though, what's the biggest concern for you? What's the biggest tip you could give Jake, knowing that you've watched Anthony so many times dominate?
Work on your defense.
After the fight was over and the adrenaline started to fade, Anthony Joshua was remarkably honest and reflective about his performance, showing the kind of self-awareness that separates true professionals from everyone else. He said that while he got the job done with that 6th-round knockout, which is what matters in the record books, he didn't feel it was his best showing by any stretch, and he genuinely believed he could have performed much better given his capabilities. Joshua admitted straight up that he needed to do better, being his own harshest critic, because he struggled early in the fight to land clean shots consistently and couldn't corner Jake Paul as quickly as many experts, analysts, and fans had expected him to. He called it a win, which it obviously was, but not a success in terms of his own performance standards, and he emphasized with real sincerity that he still has a lot of improvement ahead of him if he wants to reclaim his position at the very top of the heavyweight division. That kind of honesty is rare in boxing, where fighters often make excuses or claim perfection.
What I could have done better is a lot of things, 100%. In the fight game, you've seen the amazing fighters that have graced us over the last 100 years, and the expectations that we put on ourselves are immense, but I tried my best. Jake done well while it lasted, but if you remember what I said in the interview with Cameron, is fighting's not just physical, it's psychological. And when you understand the psychological warfare, I did say to you is that, Jake, what's gonna happen? I'm gonna see a time when I'm gonna take your soul and you're either gonna give up or you're gonna get knocked out. And unless you have that instinct, you just will never be a good fighter. So
Joshua even said in the post-fight interview, with visible frustration on his face, "I wished I could have knocked him out at the start," which tells you everything about his mindset and expectations going in. Despite the decisive knockout finish, Eddie Hearn, Joshua's longtime promoter, who's been with him throughout his entire professional career, acknowledged Jake Paul's effort in a more measured tone, trying to balance respect with realism. He noted that while Paul showed some toughness and durability by lasting into the 6th round, the outcome was honestly never in doubt from a competitive standpoint. Hearn pointed out that no one realistically expected Paul to last long against a fighter of Anthony Joshua's caliber, experience level, and physical advantages. And surviving into the 6th round was more about his ability to take punishment and stay upright than any real technical skill or boxing ability. He implied, pretty directly if you read between the lines, that Paul's performance highlighted the massive gap that exists between social media crossover fighters and elite professional boxers, emphasizing that while lasting multiple rounds was somewhat notable and better than an immediate knockout, it didn't fundamentally change the fact that Joshua's championship experience and devastating power ultimately dominated every aspect of the fight from start to finish.
First 2 or 3 rounds, a little bit frustrating because you've been out of the ring for a year and a half and you've got a guy that's just running around the ring, and you can say you've got to cut him off, but when they're moving at that kind of speed and they're holding up close, but his clinching was quite good, Jake. Listen, I'm not saying he's going to go and win a world title, but he just fought Anthony Joshua and went 5 and a bit rounds. So, respect to him, and it was good to get some rounds in, to be honest with you. He's got a new team. If it would have gone 45 seconds, maybe people would have been more impressed, but we wouldn't really have got any ring time. So we've got that, and now it's a case of when we're at next.
You described Jake as average a few years ago. What's your assessment of him now?
Decent. If you listen to what I said in the build-up, I said he used to be average, now I think he's decent. And the same. I think he's like a top 50 cruiserweight in the world. Top 50, top 60 cruiserweight in the world. So, yeah, and look, like I said, I hope he's okay. 4-0 to Matchroom over MVP. We're friends now, so respect to him.
And your message?
Fury, listen, we'll see you in September.
After the fight concluded and social media erupted with reactions, Ryan Garcia weighed in with a blunt and provocative take that caught a lot of attention within the boxing community and beyond. Garcia took to Twitter with a statement that while he respected Paul's effort and courage to step in the ring, he also made a sharp-pointed comparison involving Gervonta Davis, another high-profile boxer and knockout artist. In his tweet that quickly went viral, Garcia wrote something along these lines: "I think Gervonta would have done him worse," suggesting pretty clearly that Davis would have hit Paul even harder or ended the fight even more decisively and brutally than Joshua managed to do. It was a way of saying that Paul got off relatively easy, all things considered. Many experts and analysts within the boxing world actually agree with Garcia's assessment and believe this fight represents something that's not elite boxing in any traditional sense. Even after the fight ended and we saw the outcome, criticism of the matchup continues to pour in from various corners of the boxing community, with some observers, journalists, former fighters, and analysts arguing quite passionately that the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul bout should never have happened in the first place, that it diminished Joshua's legacy and gave Paul more legitimacy than he's earned.
I mean, look, fair play to Jake Paul. He has a lot of guts, and the fact that he wasn't carried out of this fight on a stretcher, you know, certainly I guess you can say is a positive. But what did I think about this? What did I think about Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul? Look, it felt like Anthony Joshua carried him. It felt like Jake Paul brought in as much of a negative anti-style as possible, circling away, constantly holding Joshua, constantly falling to the ground. Again, while you're certainly going to give respect for the YouTube star turned fighter for having the guts to put on this type of show and to stand in there for as long as he did until a clean right hand in the corner when Paul was absolutely exhausted, dropped him and ended the fight, this is not elite boxing. And we knew that coming in, but if these fights are going to be sanctioned as official fights, like the Mike Tyson fight from last year, like this one, how much longer is the appetite for the fan going?
You could see it on their faces, the disbelief that this was even sanctioned. They're saying things like, he didn't deserve to be there, questioning the entire premise of putting a social media personality in the ring with a former unified heavyweight champion, before the fight even happened back during the promotional phase. Deontay Wilder had fueled serious speculation about the integrity of the match, suggesting in interviews that contractual arrangements and behind-the-scenes agreements could potentially determine the winner before anyone throws a punch. According to Wilder's perspective, which is shaped by years in the professional boxing business, this fight may resemble past spectacle-like matchups, where entertainment value and financial considerations sometimes overshadow pure athletic action and merit. He implies, not so subtly, that whoever is favored in the contractual deal, whoever has the most leverage and the most to gain financially, will walk away victorious regardless of what happens in the ring, casting serious doubt on whether the outcome will be entirely earned through skill, strategy, and heart. This perspective, coming from a former heavyweight champion, has amplified debates within the boxing community significantly, as fans consider whether Paul's meteoric rise through the boxing ranks is genuinely influenced by promotional agreements and protective clauses rather than purely athletic merit and legitimate competition.
Who does he think will win the fight? And he said, whatever's in the contract for the person to win, that's who will win. And let me counterpunch. What Wilder is saying is what a lot of people are fearing, right? You know, the Jake Paul FDA that, hey, he has to win each and every fight has been one of those things that has been lingering around in the boxing world, as we've seen about Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson seeing him pulling punches or appeared to be pulling punches and not really trying to fight Jake Paul. And I reminded people that it was an exhibition. And despite how it was billed and what Mike promised to do, I think none of those guys were just trying to hurt each other. You know, I think Jake Paul was actually just trying to, just share the ring with a legend. You know what I mean? To be honest, he made sure he won, sure, but he didn't try to go out of his way to hurt Mike like he did, like he dropped Anderson Silva or he knocked.
Just think about the implications of what that means. This controversy intensified after Jake Paul knocked out Tyron Woodley in their rematch, which some people still question to this day. Jake Paul's rising confidence in the boxing world, his belief that he belongs among legitimate fighters, has drawn considerable skepticism from many seasoned analysts, commentators, and former professionals who've been around the sport for decades. Critics argue quite convincingly that Paul's belief in his ability to challenge a fighter like Anthony Joshua is completely unrealistic and borders on delusional. Joshua is a highly decorated and experienced heavyweight with years of training under elite coaches, numerous championship fights at the highest level, and proven endurance and recovery that Paul has yet to face or demonstrate. Observers and analysts note, some quite loudly, that Paul's physique and performance in the ring suggest he may rely on performance-enhancing drugs or substances to maintain his size and power, though these remain allegations without proof. In contrast, Joshua remains all-natural according to all testing protocols, demonstrating a combination of size, strength, technical skill, and ring intelligence that is extremely difficult to match even for legitimate heavyweight. This disparity in experience, skill, and natural ability has caused fans and boxing professionals alike to seriously question Paul's readiness for such a monumental challenge against a fighter of Joshua's caliber. These claims about potential contract manipulation and predetermined outcomes have sparked intense debate, particularly given the substantial financial incentives associated with the fight. Intricate contracts and enormous payouts often govern high-profile bouts like this, factors that can influence decisions about much more than just matchmaking and opponent selection. Wilder's comments have drawn significant attention to how behind-the-scenes agreements, protective clauses, and financial arrangements may affect outcomes in ways that fans rarely consider or even know about. While the idea of a completely predetermined result remains hotly disputed and controversial, the controversy itself has encouraged analysts and viewers to look more closely and critically at the business motivations driving the matchup. As scrutiny grows from media and fans alike, questions about transparency, true intent, and competitive integrity continue to surround not just this fight, but the entire phenomenon of crossover boxing matches.
Answer early. Is Jake Paul natural? No. I can say that with pretty certain confidence in that statement, mainly because, as you heard me mention, I know a lot of the people he trains with and I have heard things. Now let's give Jake the benefit of the doubt, right? He's able to restrain from the peer pressure that everyone's putting on him to hop on these certain compounds. Then that would be cool to train natural, do what he needs to do. But the thing is, his body composition has changed so much, his explosiveness, his power, and yes, that comes with training and time. But I find it very, very suspicious that for some reason, whenever a drug test gets brought up, for instance, when Fury wanted that in the contract, Jake Paul turns them down. So you should think to yourself, it's probably because he's not natural. Now I want to make it clear, I don't care whether Jake Paul is natural or not. There's so many people that aren't natural that are in combat sports. In fact, Tyron Woodley probably is also not natural. Everyone wants that little edge over their competition, and that's where drugs and anabolics come into play. There's certain compounds that are out there that just increase your explosiveness immensely, your recovery, so that you can stay in the same weight class, which is very important for combat sports, whether that's boxing, UFC, whatever type of combat sport you're doing. So that is why you guys have seen so much improvement from Jake Paul. Of course, he has a great circle around him, great trainers, great coaches, a great regimen, but definitely anabolics play a very fundamental role in that. They allow him to train as hard as he does. They allow him to increase his power and speed. And of course, when you think of those concepts, that's essentially the recipe to win in a combat sport.
Joe Rogan has made his stance crystal clear on the realism of Jake Paul's ambitions to fight elite heavyweights. And he isn't convinced the matchup favors Paul at all, not even remotely. Rogan argues, based on his decades of martial arts knowledge and combat sports analysis, that even at an older age and past his absolute prime, Anthony Joshua remains in elite physical condition that most fighters never achieve, retaining his speed, devastating power, and supreme confidence inside the ring. While Paul's boxing style and approach has worked effectively against limited or inexperienced opponents, mostly other YouTubers or retired MMA fighters, Rogan believes it would be dangerously ineffective against a seasoned, championship-level heavyweight who knows every trick in the book. He points specifically to Joshua's championship pedigree, his ring IQ developed over years of elite competition, and his proven ability to absorb pressure in the biggest moments as major advantages that can't be trained in a few years. Rogan also questions whether chasing this kind of fight makes any sense for Paul's long-term career trajectory, warning that underestimating a fighter of Joshua's caliber and accomplishments could backfire badly and potentially end Paul's boxing journey in devastating fashion. Beyond just physical attributes and measurable skills, Rogan emphasizes the psychological challenge that comes with facing true greatness, noting that Joshua's championship mindset, his experience performing under immense pressure, gives him a decisive edge in high-stakes moments that can't be quantified. For Paul, facing a truly elite opponent of Joshua's level would represent an unforgiving trial by fire, the kind of test that reveals what you're really made of when there's nowhere to hide.
Same guy he used to be. This is a 34-year-old Anthony Joshua. This is a terrifying human being. Terrifying. Again, a guy who survived Usyk twice. You know, you saw what Usyk did to Dubois. You see Usyk take out Dubois? Did you see that? I mean, that's the Usyk you're talking about. There's an Usyk that rocked Tyson Fury, who's fucking 6'9".
So Jake Paul's 6'1" versus 6'6" Anthony Joshua. Jake weighed in for the Tyson fight at 199.
Yeah.
Joshua against Ngannou was 252.
6'6". Not just 6'6", but 6'6", and knows how to use every fucking inch of it. Knows how to keep that stick in your face. He was keep that jab in his face, and that right hand, if it hits you, you're fucked. And he's not worried about you the way he's worried about Usyk. You can't move like Usyk. You can't constantly be frustrating and overloading his nervous system. Usyk is overloading every aspect of your senses at every moment. He's constantly moving, and then punches are coming, and he loops punches around your guard, and he's constantly shifting his feet, and you think he's going to be there, and he's over here, and it's like this overload of thinking. It's not a casual, relaxed fight where you can kind of move around and get your groove and he's going to stay on the outside and you're going to... No, it's just constant. He survived that guy twice. He survived, in my opinion, the most skillful heavyweight of all time. Twice. And you're going to go box him? And the toughest guy you fought before was 40 years old Anderson Silva? Those are the toughest guys so far you fought? You lost to Tommy Fury, who's a very good boxer, but this is a giant Olympic gold medalist heavyweight. I mean, Anthony Joshua is fucking
Here's
terrifying.
the thing that nightmares are made of.
And he's got that one-punch nuclear power.
One punch from Joshua, and Paul could be unconscious. And he's fast for a heavyweight, which makes him even more dangerous. So what do you think about all of this? Do these revelations about contracts, business arrangements, and behind-the-scenes dealings alter your perspective on the fight and what really happened? Or is it all just speculation, conspiracy theories, and Dave trying to explain away a legitimate outcome? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I want to know what you really think about this whole situation and where Jake Paul goes from here.